Hey everyone, how's it going? We do a little bit of politics and news and gaming, and we also do religion. And every time I try to bring up this particular topic here, my friends always look at me. They're like, "Dinas, you're crazy. Why are you going over this? There's just no real evidence." And I wanted to show you, yes, there is evidence for this stuff. This stuff is happening, and we are in the end times. It's here. Okay, so let me just pull this up here, and we'll get to going. So there's three main things. Here, three of them. Yeah, three. There's three main things that uh, are in place right now, or are taking a foothold that previously weren't in the thousands of years since Revelations was written, and of course the Book of Daniel and Thessalonians. There's a whole bunch of other books. Um, but since those prophecies were made, that are in place now, that show us that it's not going to be another 1,000 years. In my opinion, it's not going to be another 50 years, but who knows? It could be tomorrow that Jesus comes back. But there's three things. There's centrally backed digital currencies. There's the fact there's one world religion initiatives taking place. There's one world government initiatives taking place, and there's a bonus one. Um, there's the temple, the third temple. That's actually probably the most important one. That there's moves for that. So we're going to go over this and show you what's going on. So the first one's going to be the centrally backed digital currencies. And really, it's more about cryptocurrency and bank control. So if you're familiar with these, this is from the Fed. This is, I'm in the US, so we're talking about US things. But we've had, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for a while now, and you can track every one of those um, purchases and everything through the blockchain. Even if you didn't use centrally backed digital currencies, um, there was the trucking protest in Canada where Canada just said, you know what, we're just going to shut off all the accounts of all these truckers, because I used to work in banks and you have to give, your name, all your address information, your social security number, all this information just to have an account. And the thing is, the government can seize these accounts. They can freeze them. They can put levies, which is basically a fine, and then freeze your account. They can do a whole bunch of stuff. The other thing is the bank has authority to just close your accounts whenever they want, because it's a private contract between you and the bank. You don't have a right to a bank account. It's a privilege, essentially. Um, Obviously, it's a business. They don't want to do that, but they will if they have to. So now more than ever, we have control over other people's money when we want to. They do this with terrorists. And what's to stop a government, or to say, a one world ruler, from seizing control of people's bank accounts when they want? The only thing stopping them is uh, the amount of heck it will cause. I mean, imagine if unilaterally the U.S. government just shut down everyone's bank accounts. It would be horrible. But they have the power to do it. They just don't. And the fact that that system is in place now, um, when it never used to be, because we always had hard currency. We had coins, we had paper money, we had bartering. We had other systems. We didn't have this on and off switch. And so some of you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with Revelations? Why are you talking about buying and selling? Well, this is where I want to kind of bring in some evidence here. So everything I'm going to talk about, it's in the Bible. I'm going to show you. So we're going to we are in Revelations chapter 13. And for this one, it's going to be verse 17. So after you receive the mark, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. After you receive the mark, it says that here, verse 16. So also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to mark on the right hand or the forehead, so that, and there's an important part, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. Now, I'm not going to, the mark is not the important part here. The important part here is the buying and selling part. And the fact that we have the technology and the capabilities to turn that on and off, we can do that now. Couldn't use that before in the last, I don't know, 100 years, I would say, when banking really became the most common thing that everyone would do. I mean, with your debit cards and credit cards and ATM machines and you name it. So that's number one. Number two is we're going to talk about a one world religion. This has been kind of in the background a bit, um, last, I don't know, 10, 20 years, but it seems seemingly more ramping up. And specifically, I wanted to show you uh, these churches that were built in Abu Dhabi. It's I believe this was done at the authority of. I mean, it'd have to be. So basically, it's a synagogue, a mosque, and a Catholic church, all three next to each other. Like I said, this is in Abu Dhabi. This is a CNN article, and I'll show you the official website as well. Um, I'm I'm not Catholic, but I'm pretty sure every Catholic church has to be open on the authority of the church. The church is just going to allow, you know, because they have to staff it with bishop, not bishop, but someone that's under their authority. They don't just let anyone do it. So this is, same thing with mosques and synagogues. They have their methods for allowing churches and what they call their churches. So they have all this stuff there. Here's the official website. It's called the Abrahamic Family House. Like I said, it's in Abu Dhabi. The Catholic Church there is the St. Francis Church, which is named after the 13th century monk, who happens to also be who the current Pope is named after, that 13th century monk. So this is kind of an ode to the current Pope. They have the Eminence Ahmad El Taib Mosque there. And this is open last year. This has been around for, so this is built, it's done, it's there. And they also have stuff like there's a Chrislam initiative where they're trying to combine Christianity and Islam. The Pope has been having talks with Orthodox Jewish leaders and Muslims. They're all trying to have this one world faith more and more, and I'm getting more concerned about it. And because we didn't talk like that, we had the Crusades 1,000 years ago. We had 9/11 20 years ago. But we're not having that kind of talk anymore with the world as a whole. So that's interesting. So again, where does this say we're going to have that? Well, so now we're going to have to, it's not as explicit as it was in the first verse we looked at, but this is the most commonly held explanation why there's going to be a one world religion. So it's in Revelation 17, chapter 17, verse 15, I believe. Yeah. So it says, and the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute is seated are the peoples and the multitudes of the nations. Let's get some context here. Let me get out of that and read the whole thing. So it's really the entire chapter of chapter 17. And we'll read a bit of that here. So it says, and then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls, that's one of the seven bowl judgments, came and said to me, come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated at the many waters. Now, what is the you have to understand, in the Bible, prostitutes has more than one meaning. It's, prostitute, the normal meaning, but it also can refer to someone that is idol worshiping. They're referred to as harlots. Basically, you're cheating on God, essentially, is what that's meaning. By, instead of going to your wife, you're going to some harlot. And so they use that as a provocative term. And this is what it means here, because obviously we're not talking about kings who are going to prostitutes. We wouldn't have some grand prophecy about that because they do it anyways. Hi, Bill Clinton. But so it says, come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute is seated on the many waters, with whom kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of sexual immorality the dwellers on the earth have become drunk. And he carried me away. And so this is, if you want to look this up more, it's basically, we're talking about the whore of Babylon is what this is. And so we can see here the 10 horns that you saw are the 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings with the beast or the Antichrist. So we're going to have 10 kings, 10 kingdoms, 10 governments, if you will. And they're all going to be part of one world religion because um, he said, "Oh yeah, those kings that you saw that with the prostitute, they will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put into their hearts to carry out this purpose, being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the God's words are fulfilled." And the woman you saw, so that's that great harlot, is the great city that has dominion over these kings of the earth. And how does a prostitute have dominion over these kings? Does she just say, "Oh, I slept with you"? No, that's not. It's not a literal thing. We're talking about a vision, and visions are highly symbolic sometimes. But this one, it's like, okay, well, how would this? If you're a harlot is someone that is cheated on God to go to other idols, and so that these 10 kings have cheated on God to go with a different religion, a one world religion that these all these kings are for. That's the traditional interpretation. I didn't make it up. It's been there for a very long time. That's what this is referring to. The third thing I want to talk about now is the red heifers. Why these red heifers? Well, I I talked to one of these people that sent these heifers over there. These heifers are important because they precipitate the building of the temple, the third temple. The third temple is necessary for a lot of things that happen in the end times. There's this thing called the abomination of desolation, basically, where uh, there's going to be some sort of desecration in the third temple. Well, you can't have any of that happen unless there's a third temple that's been built. In order to build a third temple, you have to have a red heifer that is pure all over for like a period of time. I want to say it's a few years. And these red heifers then are burned. They use these ashes to purify the Jewish priests, and then they go from there to build the temple. That's a lot. So these heifers were sent over 2 years ago. They've been there for a few years. The war that's going on in Gaza right now is part of the reason that's happening, according to Hamas, is because of these red heifers. They were sent over, and they know that they're going to sacrifice them. They know they're going to do this to build the third temple, and they're afraid that they're going to build this third temple on the mosque, where the mosque, where I don't know what it's called. It's the one where it's Mecca, essentially. Um, so where does it talk about this? This is the Old Testament now. This is Numbers chapter 19. Let me find this. It's actually verse 2. So in order to purify the temple, they bring about this ritual law. This statute, this to be ritually clean. This is the statute of the law of the Lord is commanded. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer without defect, which there's no blemish, and which a yoke has never come. A yoke is like the big old pulling device. So this is a spoiled cow, a very spoiled cow. You shall give it to the head priest, Eleazar the priest, and it shall be taken outside the camp and slaughtered before him. Then Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger, sprinkle some of the blood towards the front of the tent of the meeting 7 times. And the heifer shall be burned in his sight, skin and flesh and his blood. So they're doing all this stuff, and they have a specific way they do it, right? Um, the one who burns the heifer shall wash his clothes in this ash water, and bathe his body in this water, and shall be unclean until evening. And a man who is clean, ritually clean, that is, shall gather up the ashes of this heifer, deposit them outside the camp in a clean place, and they shall be kept in the water for impurity for the congregation of the people of Israel as a sin offering. So they have to do this to, like I said, prepare the temple. They only did this 9 times in the whole history of Israel. So they have these now. This is why they're so excited that they finally found these heifers, because it's been 2,000 years since we last had this. So let me just gather the rest of my thoughts here. So we have centrally backed digital currencies. We have a one world religion. We have the third temple, Finally, there's one more thing. This is the bonus one. A one world government. And one world government is talked about, like I said, with those 10 kings, given 10 crowns and authority from the beast. This has become, this is something that's been wanted to happen for a long time, as far as we had the League of Nations back in the 1900s after World War One. Now we have the United Nations after World War Two. We had the was it the Abraham Accords after Trump. We almost had peace in the Middle East. We are moving towards this world peace more and more as time goes on. And as our economy has become more global, as our supply chains are more and more global, it just makes more sense to have a one world government to control all these things. And what makes also sense to have a one world currency, but uh, we'll talk about that another time. Um, you see, these things weren't a thing before. There's no way we would ever have even consideration of a one world, the entire world united under one government, one currency, one nation. In fact, the last time it happened was the Tower of Babel, which God separated us all. So I just wanted to show you these things, that these things aren't just strange little things that we just kind of made up on the spot. There's biblical basis for these things, and these things are happening. And to be aware, that's not to scare you, it's not to freak out, but it is to tell you that things are closer than they ever have been. And it's not going to be very much longer now. Now, when is that? Is that going to be tomorrow? Could be. Could be next week. Could be in a year. Could be 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. But I don't think it's going to be 1,000 years. I don't think it's going to be 500 years. I think these things are going to happen a lot sooner than we ever expected. So I wanted to throw this out here. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a wonderful day. Peace.